Good evening, this is Atmospheric Alex here with yet another update on basically everything. We're going to be talking about severe weather in this video, tropical weather, and even the potential for northern lights, maybe tonight but more than likely tomorrow night and even going into a Monday as well. Before we start with everything here, if you've been wondering why the skies haven't looked too great today, we have a lot of Canadian wildfire smoke that is making its way off to the south and east, and this has been causing a lot of visibility issues for the majority of the eastern and central US here today. And we're going to start today's video off with our severe weather. For today, we're talking about a slight risk, a level 2 out of 5 on the severe weather scale for portions of southern Kansas and Oklahoma as well. And then even a couple other marginal risk areas, this one Virginia, North Carolina, and all those areas in there as well. We're not talking about all that much today, a 2% chance of tornadoes. I'm not sure if that's going to hold though. Our parameters are not high at all in those areas. Some wind is possible as well. Some hail, definitely not too large of it though. Again, our parameters are not that heightened here today. As we go on into tomorrow, you can see a smaller slight risk area to the south of Dallas, including like Waco, Killeen, College Station area, and there we see another marginal risk up here in Colorado, New Mexico, another one in Tennessee, East Tennessee to be exact, and most of North Carolina, South Carolina. So we're really going to have to watch that. Potentially a line of storms kind of form right here, like a broken line of storms, and push further to the south. That could cause some severe weather concerns. A little bit of a tornado risk down there in your main risk area. Some wind is possible. And your hail, well, you could definitely see some large 2 to 3 plus inch diameter hail if storms form. Now, moving into Monday here, we have another large slight risk for severe weather here out for Nebraska, South Dakota, and Minnesota here. And that could be a much more notable threat. I do expect that to go to an enhanced risk for damaging winds and large hail. That is the two main concerns. And as we move into Tuesday here, this could potentially be, some people are saying this could potentially be an event/outbreak of severe weather, and this could get a lot larger. We're really going to have to monitor this for all areas in between. So as we look at what our radar could look like going into tonight for Kansas and Oklahoma, storms could begin to fire off here in southern and southeastern Kansas starting in around 7 to 10 p.m. Central Time here. Or maybe even a little bit later, timing's a bit uncertain. As we move later into tonight, you could see a lot more coverage here, moving in Enid, Tulsa, Oklahoma here, going into around 12 to 3 a.m. Central Time. And you can see pushing into Oklahoma City as well. A couple supercells, transient weak supercells to be exact. And then your large hail risk trying to develop out of more storms going later on into the night and going into early tomorrow morning when they may finally exit the state of Oklahoma. Now, as we move into tomorrow's risk, we're going a bit fast because I have a lot to talk about later on. You can see your storms pushing through Texas. A couple of pretty strong supercells flaring up here going on into tomorrow afternoon and evening around 3 to 6 p.m. Central Time. You can see a couple of those supercells firing off there and weakening. If we see anything that forms out here, a definite heightened tornado risk may occur. We really have got to watch any further supercell initiation for definitely tornado potential. What do your parameters look like for tomorrow? Well, you could see definitely a very favorable parameter space going into tomorrow evening with your orange and red colors here. So certainly heightened supercell composite values, which will result in significant severe weather potential and tornado potential across those areas. I'm not expecting a strong tornado, but again, I guess it can't be ruled out since it's more of a mesoscale day. And into the night, those quickly fade away, and then some lingering stuff over here dies as well. Now, let's go into East Tennessee here. Of course, I'm excited about this because this will be impacting my area tomorrow. And we're talking about some pretty vigorous convection, some strong storms firing up along a broken line here, extending from Crossville to Asheville, possibly. Looks like 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow evening here, where we could see strong, potentially damaging winds out of some of those lines here and segments, Jefferson City, Dandridge, Strawberry Plains, and Knoxville, those areas, Kodak going into Sevierville. Definitely could be talking about some severe weather concerns moving on through this line here. Definitely could have a strong outflow boundary attached to it with some storm energy. We really got to monitor this. Further on off to the northwest, some more storms firing up in the plateau, and even off further to the northwest around Martin here and off to the east. And Paducah here could end up seeing some severe weather. We could see a big extension of that marginal risk further off to the west, and your storms really push through around 5 to 7 p.m. in the evening, and you could see a couple rounds of it too. More strong storms trying to fire up here. We're really going to have to watch this. Could even see an isolated flash flooding risk, especially along and in the mountains here. So, yeah, could have quite an active weather event tomorrow for your Sunday across East Tennessee and Western North Carolina. Now, as we move into Monday, well, we're going to be talking about a massive unzipping of thunderstorms here. Boom, right here. Look at that. Big old line of storms really fires up here, going into around 7 to 10 p.m. Central Time. Yeah, look at that. Definitely going to be talking about some very damaging winds, considerably damaging winds, large hail as well. Some of those segments containing upwards of even over 70-mile-an-hour winds. Look at near North Platte and Hastings there. NAM is a little bit more of a linear bias, and at this point is kind of inaccurate, so please take it with a grain of salt. Now, further south, you could have a more heightened tornado risk if your cells remain discrete. Here you go. Look at this going on into the Texas Panhandle, Oklahoma Panhandle here, and even in portions of Colorado. Very nice cells firing up here. A little bit clustered, but this is the NAM, so it could change with the HRRR as that rolls out. But look at that there. Your individual cells posing a tornado at damaging wind and hail risk. And then they really may begin to cluster up again. Please, this is super uncertain. Take it with a grain of salt. Moving on into the night, more linear segments try to develop. Your parameters across the board here, well, you are definitely talking about them up here. Some of your orange and red colors. Not a lot of wind shear. You can see your lines here, your wind barbs. You don't have many sticks on the end of them, so not talking about a lot of wind shear in your mid to upper levels. But for sure, going to be talking about wind and hail further south. Maybe a little bit better of an environment at the very bottom of your screen, but again, so many uncertainties continue to plague the models. And, well, we're going to move into part 2 of our video. I'm trying to go really fast here, not only to get this video done before it gets dark out, but to also make sure that this isn't too boring and drawn out, right? We don't want that. This could be an hour-long video, but I'm going to make sure that it isn't. Okay, so your sea surface temperatures in your Caribbean. We're going to be talking about potential, maybe a tropical disturbance that's going to try and develop, if we're going to be looking at that here. And your sea surface temperatures in between 29 to 30 degrees Celsius across some areas here. So getting into your mid-80s in Fahrenheit. We're going to really have to watch this, as waters are already conducive for tropical development. As we move into the Gulf, yeah, for sure, look at this loop current here, already starting to funnel up into the Gulf a lot more with mid-80s over there. Look at off the Bay of Youth here, off of Cuba, upwards even close to the low 90s already. Goodness gracious. And then even off your Florida Keys here, talking about in your upper 80s already. So bathwater trying to develop along the Keys here. Absolutely ridiculous. And I mean, yeah, it's just looking a lot more favorable out there in terms of sea surface temperatures. But we're going to look at our tale of the two models, as we always do during tropical weather season. We won't look at our tropical weather triangle yet, as I'm not trying to get too in-depth and in the weeds, but here's your GEFS ensemble here. And what you're going to begin to notice is your low pressure centers of your individual members forming down here in the Caribbean. And that's quite a signal, right? Look at all those members here moving up into the Gulf. We could be talking about maybe something rather significant moving towards the Gulf Coast, right? And you can continue seeing this moving through. Even a couple of hurricane ensemble members in there. Look at that over there. Oh my goodness, certainly quite significant. European ensemble. What happened? Well, the GFS model has a very big bias. You see any vorticity that comes off of this area in here in South America, anything that spins off of that, it immediately wants it to form into a tropical system, push it through the Caribbean into the Gulf, and that's how you get fantasy run hurricanes for the Gulf Coast. So I'm not exactly buying, fierce tropical weather development down here just yet. And if you come across someone who thinks it could happen, and, is trying to spread these model images online, please do not trust them. They are not a reliable source for your information, all right? At this time of year, and especially the rest of tropical weather season, you have to know where your information is coming from, and please be careful who you trust online. But nothing forms here. Maybe a bit of a disturbance. You could see a bit of rain moving up into the Gulf, but that's about all I'm expecting. Maybe some gusty winds. So, yeah, not really seeing all that much yet, despite a very favorable environment. It's just too early in the hurricane season. Now, not only are we looking at severe weather and tropical weather for our active weather pattern, we're also looking at space weather too. Here's a large look at the sun here, and you can currently see some pretty intense sunspots that are pretty visible here. We have active region 4100, which caused a massive solar flare yesterday. We're talking about an M-class flare upwards of an 8, and that actually launched a massive solar storm heading towards Earth. And then we have active region 4099, which we have been watching closely too, which could also end up launching a solar storm as your flare probabilities begin to rise, as your magnetic configurations begin to become more favorable through your HMI tool up here. So as we take a much more detailed look at the sun here, we're going to be looking at it through a bit of a filter here. This is your SDO AIA imagery of the sun here, and we are taking a look at our blue sun. As you can see here, we are talking about a pretty big solar flare that happened here, but look at yesterday's event here as it comes into view. Bam! Right there! A massive M8 solar flare has occurred. Yeah, take a look at that there. Very large solar flare did occur right there, and you can actually see a coronal mass ejection. If you look very closely at some of your magnetic lines and they're kind of expanding outwards at rapid speeds, that is your coronal mass ejection. So we are definitely going to be talking about a massive solar storm heading quickly towards Earth. That is going to be expected here likely tomorrow night, potentially even tonight if we get lucky. Another way to view this is through our coronagraph imagery. This is our GOES-19 imagery, our most recent satellite that actually went up into space, believe it or not. So you can see here from yesterday when it first happened, look at all this, bam, all your material just gets absolutely ejected from the sun. Isn't that incredible? And if you don't know what this is, basically we are looking at an instrument that purposely eclipses the sun's brightness and allows this instrument to see all the particles basically flying off of it from our solar storm. You can see going in all different directions here. We do have a full halo CME right here, so certainly going to be talking about that large solar storm here from yet another angle. And if you still don't believe me, here are your protons currently out in front of this solar storm. We're looking at yet another satellite. This is your ACE satellite, which is very close to Earth. And out ahead of these CMEs, there tends to be a massive rise in protons. I don't exactly know why this happens, but just know that it does. And we are talking about this here starting around 5Z last night. So this is 1 a.m. this morning. And you can see it really going up here, kind of stabilizing this afternoon, then taking a bit of an upswing here going in just a few minutes ago. So we are definitely talking about a solar storm here, a coronal mass ejection that is getting much closer to Earth here and really could hit soon. And we're going to take a look at yet another tool here. This is your Enlil solar wind prediction model here. Basically what this does is it shows your CME kind of emanating out of the sun here and pushing off towards Earth. So you're going to begin to see this here. And here we go. As we go through time, you see it kind of lifting, yep, right there, lifting off the sun and slamming into Earth. This model says around tomorrow morning into tomorrow afternoon. Again, you give or take 6 hours from this model, basically, is what we are looking at here. And hey, just on the top of the screen here, I wanted to note that NOAA here is actually predicting a G4 geomagnetic storm, believe it or not. So we're definitely going to be talking about potential significant aurora chances here. Northern lights, that's what That's what they're called scientifically, basically, going on into tomorrow night. And again, I just cannot rule it out tonight either. We're really going to have to keep an eye on real-time data that we're getting from these satellites and from on the ground. And here it is, the Space Weather Prediction Center. We are calling for a G3 for tonight here, KP7. Your view line of your aurora extending all the way down past Chicago here into portions of northern and central Indiana, central Illinois, and kind of following that line right within there. So very interesting indeed. If we see any substorms, which is basically a sudden charge of activity, you can get really tall and bright pillars that extend high into the sky, and you could see aurora a little bit further south than that. So again, real-time data, extremely important in events like this. And tomorrow night, they should have a KP8 and a G4. I don't know why they don't have that yet. So I do expect this view line to go even further south. We could be pushing some, of your deep mid-latitude states, possibly all the way down to Tennessee, Arkansas, Oklahoma. Could we see it even further south into the southeast? That's a little hard to tell. You remember what happened last October? I guess we'll have to see if we see something similar to that. There's no telling what'll happen, though. And with that being said, thank you so much for tuning into today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. I also hope it wasn't too confusing for you all, because you know how much I love to talk about this, and I kind of know quite a bit about this. Not everything, especially not about space weather. If there's any space weather experts who are watching this video, please correct me in the comments below if I got anything wrong. I'm happy to take some criticism on that. One more thing to note, this upcoming geomagnetic storm, when it hits Earth, that's what it's called, I don't expect any power grid issues, alright? This is not going to be a massive world-ending event like some people have portrayed it online. Again, if you see any posts like that online, please disregard it and do not trust that person. They are just simply trying to get clicks, and yeah, this is basically the easiest way to do it, unfortunately. Hopefully, everything goes well. You're able to see the northern lights. Again, you'll have to take a picture with your phone in night mode on 15-second long exposure. Please, that is the best way to see the lights. And bear in mind that smoke could limit visibility here across some portions of the US as well. Once again, if you enjoyed today's video, please be sure to smash that like button, subscribe to my Corner of the Weather community, and even share this with friends, family on social media if you wish. And you all have a wonderful night, everyone. I'll see you all in the next video.